Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, donde quiera que esté. Mi nombre es John Levy, analista político y comunicador. Gracias por estar aquí. El que ha seguido la política estadounidense sabe que Pensilvania era el estado clave que Donald Trump necesitaba para ganarle a la campaña de Kamala Harris. Y resulta que después de lo que pasó en McDonald's, donde Donald Trump, ay señores, voy a ir hablando en lo que pongo esto un poquito más grande. Bueno, seguiré hablando. Luego que Donald Trump hiciera su presentación en McDonald's, eso le acarreó muchos puntos que le sirvieron a él para estar puntero en Pensilvania. Por el tema del fracking, Pensilvania es un estado muy disputado, y el fracking, ustedes saben que es muy importante. El fracking es la extracción de gas natural, de petróleo, etcétera, etcétera, del suelo estadounidense. Y para los estadounidenses es sumamente importante el tema del fracking. Bueno, ustedes saben que Kamala Harris decía o hablaba de un baneo total para el fracking, y luego pues cambió de opinión porque le convenía, lo que se le ha criticado a Kamala Harris durante mucho tiempo. Señores, no sé por qué esto no se está quitando. Ahí es que va. Durante mucho tiempo se le criticó eso. Bueno, pues el town hall ayer de Kamala Harris en Pensilvania, tengo entendido que fue, como siempre, un absoluto, ahí se ve bien, sí, ahí se ve bien, un absoluto y completo desastre, según unos pequeños highlights que he estado viendo, pero no lo vi todo para reaccionar íntegramente a este town hall. Para los que no están ubicados, Donald Trump perdió 2.8, eso no estaba aquí ayer, pero aún está asegurado el estado de Pensilvania. Aquí era donde Donald Trump estaba ayer. Se puede ver una ligera recuperación de la campaña de Harris con un 3.00 puntos, pero aún así Donald Trump lleva una ventaja muy significativa sobre Kamala Harris. No sé por qué los demócratas hablan de una competencia muy reñida, muy pegada. No existe. Donald Trump aventaja por mucho a Kamala Harris, pero la lógica del equipo de campaña de Donald Trump es trabajar como si le faltara un punto hasta el último día, y así debería ser. Vamos a ver este town hall en Delaware, Pensilvania, dura media hora. Lo vamos a poner en cámara rápida porque imagínense. Vamos a escuchar.
This is their first election. Many are leaning right now to one candidate or another, but they all say they have yet to make their final
Va a haber subtítulos en pantalla, señores.
choice. Now, we found these voters working with a nonpartisan research firm as well as business.
La característica de estos votantes es que supuestamente están indecisos, que no saben por quién votar. Ese que está ahí, nosotros sabemos que no está indeciso.
Religious groups, universities, and other civic organizations. These voters are asking their own questions tonight, selected by CNN to cover a variety of topics. You may see them holding a piece of paper when they're asking their question. It has their question on it. That is a question they have come up with. It has not been edited in any way by CNN. We also invited former President Donald Trump to participate in a town hall or a debate. He declined. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Vice President Kamala Harris. Vice President, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks. We have the mic right here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Thanks so much for being with us. We're going to get to the audience in just a second. I want to start by asking you, though, for weeks you have been calling Donald Trump unstable, unhinged. You've called him dangerous. You've quoted General Milley recently, who called him a fascist. Today, you quoted General Kelly, who said that Trump repeatedly praised Hitler.
Yeah.
But there are tens of millions of Americans right now who have heard all those things, and they don't buy it, or even if they do, they're still going to vote for Donald Trump. He's arguably more popular now than ever. You have 13 days to go. What do you say to those voters to convince them? Because some of them are in this room.
Sure, and I thank you all for taking the time to be here. And you could be doing a number of other things with your time. So this really is proof that we love our country. People are engaged, Anderson, and really want to talk about the issues. And so the issue that you raise, yes, I do believe that Donald Trump is unstable, increasingly unstable.
Eso siempre ha llamado la atención, porque Joe Biden, que es más adulto que Donald Trump tuviera la edad de Joe Biden de gobernar ahora para el mismo periodo, ella a todo el tiempo vio hablando de lo estable, de lo maravilloso que es Biden. Me resulta difícil creer entonces que por un lado Biden es un tipo estable, elocuente, pero por el otro lado Donald Trump es inestable. Vamos a ponernos de acuerdo.
And unfit to serve. And I don't necessarily think that everyone.
Yo sé ya que este town hall, más que nada, va a ser un ataque a Donald Trump constantemente. Porque usted va a ver que estas últimas 2 semanas que quedan de la carrera presidencial va a ser ataques a Donald Trump. Ya, eso no va a ser otra cosa. No van a ser propuestas, no van a ser cómo voy a mejorar la vida de los estadounidenses, no se va a hablar de mi experiencia, no, ataques. Usted va a ver la maquinaria de los 1,000 y pico de millones que le queden restantes, todo, absolutamente todo, desde el programa, influencers, mujeres que estuvieron con Donald Trump hace 30 años, lo veremos más adelante en otro video, van a empezar a atacarlo. Incluso ella ha hecho una comparación de que Donald Trump y Hitler es lo mismo. Señores, un señor que ha sido intento de haberlo quitado 2 veces.
Has heard what you and I have heard repeatedly, which is the people who know Donald Trump best, the people who worked with him in the White House, in the Situation Room, in the Oval Office, all Republicans, by the way, who served in his administration, his former chief of staff, his national security advisor, former secretaries of defense, and his vice president have all called him unfit and dangerous.
Eso es cap. ¿Por qué? Todos esos que llaman a Donald Trump inestable, unfit, son gente que él despidió porque no estaban haciendo su trabajo. Entonces yo te pregunto a ti, tú tienes una empresa, tú tienes 50 empleados y de esos 50 empleados tú tienes 5 que se portaron mal, que no hicieron su trabajo y tú lo despides deshonrosamente. ¿Qué tú crees que va a salir a decir esa gente? ¿Cosas buenas de ti o cosas malas? Eso es precisamente el argumento de Kamala Harris. Gente que Donald Trump votó o se desligó de ellos en un momento. Ellos son lo peor. Come on.
They have said
Él es lo peor. Come on.
explicitly he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. They have said he should never again serve as president of the United States. We know that is why Mike Pence is not running with him again, why the job was empty. And then today we learned that John Kelly, a 4-star Marine general, who is his longest-serving chief of staff, gave an interview recently in the last 2 weeks of this election, talking about how dangerous Donald Trump is. And I think one has to think about, why would someone who served with him, who is not political, a 4-star Marine general, why is he telling the American people now? And frankly, I think of it as he's just putting out a 911 call to the American people.
No sé. Puede que promesas. Puede que por la misma razón que Mark Cuban, el multimillonario Mark Cuban, los otros días le estaba bajando los pantalones a Donald Trump, que era el mejor, pero luego que vio una posibilidad de tener un trabajo en tu administración, mágicamente cambió de opinión. Como que la gente no cambia de opinión por alguna razón. Come on, Kamala.
Understand what could happen if Donald Trump were back in the White House. And this time,
yo sé que lo que va a pasar, él va a ir a la Casa Blanca, va a gobernar 4 años y después se va a ir. Lo mismo que hizo en el primer periodo, igualito. A pesar de que Donald Trump entiende que ganó la presidencia en el segundo mandato, pero lo mismo. Si pierde, él no puede repetir. Cuando acabe su mandato se va, como hizo en el primer periodo. Ya nosotros sabemos qué fue lo que pasó. Ya nosotros vivimos eso.
Must take very seriously those folks who knew him best and who were career people are not going to be there to hold him back. At least before, there were folks who we know what he would say, but they would restrain him. Imagine now Donald Trump in the Oval Office, in the Situation Room. He who has openly admired dictators, said he would be a dictator on day one. The former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff has said he is a fascist to the core. So I think that when the American people reflect, especially those who are undecided, on who you should listen to. Don't take my word for it. In fact, go online and listen to John Kelly, his voice, talking about what he thinks of Donald Trump 2 weeks before the election. Because I think we all know, to your point, Anderson, it is close, but there are undecided voters who clearly, by being here, have an open mind, want to talk in a way that is grounded in issues and fact. And when they hear these facts, I think it compels a lot of people to be concerned about the future of our country with Donald Trump at the lead.
You've quoted General Milley calling Donald Trump a fascist. You yourself have not used that word to describe him. Let me ask you tonight, do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I also believe that the people who know him best on this subject should be trusted. Again, look at their careers. These are not people, with the exception, I think, of only Mike Pence. These were not politicians. These are career people who have served in the highest roles in national security, who have served as generals in our military. who are highly respected, talking about the person who would be commander-in-chief, not to mention what we know and what they've told us about how he talks about the military, servicemen and women, referring to them as suckers and losers, how he demeans people who have taken an oath to sacrifice their life for our country. And I do believe, Anderson, that part of this is why, even just this week, I traveled this state and others with Liz Cheney, former Congress member who was a very high-ranking Republican. She has endorsed me. Her father, the former Vice President of the United States, Dick Cheney, is voting for me. Over 400 previous members of the administration, from Ronald Reagan to both Presidents Bush to Donald Trump even, have endorsed my candidacy. And the reason why, among them, is a legitimate fear based on Donald Trump's words and actions that he will not obey an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. He himself has said he would terminate the Constitution of the United States and wants to earn your vote to stand again behind the seal of the President of the United States? No one standing behind the seal of the President of the United States of America should be in that position saying they want to terminate the Constitution of the United States.
This is Annalise Keene. She's from Philadelphia. She works as a fundraiser for Habitat for Humanity. She's registered with no party affiliation. She says she's a Democrat. She's leaning toward voting for you, but says she's yet to make her final decision, in part because of the conflict in the Middle East. Annalise?
Thank you, and good evening, Madam Vice President.
Good evening.
My question is, as president, what would you do to ensure not another Palestinian dies due to bombs being funded by U.S. tax dollars?
So I will say, and I think this is to your point, far too many innocent Palestinian civilians have been killed. It's unconscionable. And we are now at a place where, with Sinwar's death...
Para los que no están actualizados, los palestinos mataron a los israelíes en una fiesta y mantienen captivado a 101 rehenes israelíes. Si lo hubiesen devolvido, ya la guerra hubiese terminado. Para que tengan una idea.
I do believe we have an opportunity to end this war, bring the hostages home, bring relief to the Palestinian people. And
La pregunta siempre va a ser, ¿por qué no lo han hecho? Lo pueden hacer ahora. Una orden ejecutiva. Siempre, el problema que tiene Kamala Harris es que ella tiene que venderse por un cambio, pero es que tú eres la que está en la Casa Blanca, señores. Es que es tan obvio, no entiendo.
work toward a two-state solution where Israel and the Palestinians in equal measure have security, where the Palestinian people have dignity, self-determination, and the safety that they so rightly deserve.
What do you say to voters who are thinking about supporting a third-party candidate or staying on the couch, not voting at all because of this issue?
Listen, I am not going to deny the strong feelings that people have. I don't know that anyone who has seen the images who would not have strong feelings about what has happened, much less those who have relatives who have died and been killed. And I know people and have talked with people. So I appreciate that. But I also do know that for many people who care about this issue, they also care about bringing down the price of groceries. They also care about our democracy and not having a president of the United States who admires dictators and is a fascist. They also care about the fact that we need practical, common sense solutions from a leader who is willing to work across the aisle on behalf of the American people and not themselves. They want a president who cares about a fundamental freedom to make decisions about your own body, understanding that we're not trying to change anyone's belief, but let's not have the government telling women what to do with their body.
Esa es la misma persona que en un rally alguien dijo Jesus is King. Y ella le dijo que se fuera, que para otro rally, que él estaba en rally equivocado. Esa es la misma persona que dice respetar las creencias religiosas, coño, Kamala.
I want you to meet Beth Sandberg. She's a realtor, a mom of 4 from Bala Cynwyd, Pennsylvania. She's a registered Democrat, says she's undecided because of concerns about anti-Semitism. Beth?
Hi, thank you for being here.
Thank you,
Thank
Beth.
you for remembering we need to bring the hostages home.
Of course.
The rise of anti-Semitism and violence from anti-Semitism has risen greatly on college campuses and on our city streets in the last year. How would you combat this growing trend and protect our young adults?
Thank you, Beth. You are right, and I will say that we have seen a rise in anti-Semitism. It is something that we have to be honest about and we have to deal with. As Attorney General, I actually published a hate crimes report on a regular basis, and anti-Semitism was among the highest forms of hate in our country, and this was before October 7. and we know what we've seen since. Part of what we've got to do is talk with people so that they understand what are the tropes, what are the roots of what we are seeing, so that we can actually have people be more understanding. We need to have laws in place that make those who would commit crimes on behalf of anti-Semitism and hate, that they pay a serious consequence. We need to have the deterrent so that doesn't happen. We need to ensure that college students are safe in their school and feel safe to be able to go to class. But I'm going to tell you what doesn't help. Again, I invite you to listen and go online to listen to John Kelly, the former chief of staff of Donald Trump, who has told us, Donald Trump said, why aren't my generals like those of Hitler's? Like Hitler, who has referred several times, we've heard the reports for years.
Do you believe Donald Trump is anti-Semitic?
I believe Donald Trump is a danger to the well-being and security of America.
Esta es la misma narrativa que ha llevado 2 intentos de asesinato al expresidente Donald Trump. Esta es la misma gente que dice que es tolerante y respetuosa. Esta es la misma gente. Señores, hay gente enferma en los Estados Unidos. No todo el estadounidense, la mayoría de los estadounidenses es gente buena y educada. Pero hay gente, como en todos los países, que está loca y es mala. ¿Cómo tú le dices a un público que te sigue que otro candidato es Hitler y que es peligroso? Ya lo han intentado matar 2 veces. Eso debería ser ilegal. Pero, free speech.
He has said that he's casting himself as a protector of Israel. Do you believe you would be more pro-Israel than Donald Trump?
I believe that Donald Trump is dangerous. I believe that when you have a president of the United States who has said to his generals who work for him because he is commander-in-chief, these conversations, I assume many of them took place in the Oval Office. And if the president of the United States, the commander-in-chief, is saying to his generals, in essence, why can't you be more like Hitler's generals, Anderson? Come on. This is a serious, serious issue. And we know.
Ustedes saben que es un cap, que es una mentira de Kamala. No hay manera de verificar eso. Ay, yo estaba con Donald Trump y yo le escuché que él dijo que tú te... Ok, pruebas. ¿Dónde está la prueba de eso? Porque tú lo dices. O él te despidió y ahora tú dices que él dijo. O había alguien cerca y dijo. Eso no son pruebas. Tú no puedes someter a alguien a la acción de la justicia porque alguien cerca dijo. Eso no es. Y me sorprende, Kamala Harris fue Attorney General, que ella, ustedes saben la reputación que ella tiene con eso, que de este tipo de declaraciones es insane.
Who he is. He admires dictators, sending love letters back and forth with Kim Jong-un. Talks about the president of Russia, and then most recently the reports are that in the height of COVID, when most Americans could not get their hands on a COVID test, Americans were dying by the hundreds a day. He secretly sent COVID tests to the president of Russia for his personal use. So again, this election in 13 days is presenting the American people with a very significant decision. And on the one side, on this issue of who is going to model what it means to use the bully pulpit of the President of the United States in a manner that in tone, word, and deed is about lifting up our discourse, fighting against hate, as opposed to fanning the flames of hate, which Donald Trump does consistently.
O sea, miren la lógica de Kamala Harris. Ella tiene, este town hall tiene 13 minutos. De esos 13 minutos, Kamala Harris tiene aproximadamente 9 o 10 llamando a Hitler nazi. Llamando a Hitler lo peor de lo peor. Y ahora, en el mismo discurso, 2 minutos después, ella te dice que ella va a luchar contra el hate speech. Lo que pasa es que el hate speech es lo que ellos digan que es. Ese es el problema cuando se crean leyes ambiguas. Oh, que vamos a crear leyes para el discurso de odio. Ok, ¿y qué es discurso de odio? Lo que ellos digan. Si yo lo digo, no es discurso de odio, pero si tú lo dices, es discurso de odio.
I'm going to tell you, we are an incredible country and we love our country. Y'all wouldn't be here unless we love our country. And there are certain things where we've just got to come together and realize that we do believe in the importance of healthy debate on real issues, but there are certain standards we've got to have. And, you know, another point that even John Kelly talked about, I believe, and many have, is January 6th, where you have the President of the United States defying the will of the people in a free and fair election and unleashing a violent mob who attacked the United States Capitol. 140 law enforcement officers were attacked. Some were killed. And so I say that to say the American people deserve to have a president who encourages healthy debate, works across the aisle, not afraid of good ideas wherever they come from, but also maintains certain standards about how we think about the role and the responsibility, and certainly not comparing oneself in a clearly admiring way to Hitler.
And we are back with Vice President Kamala Harris. I want you to meet Rob McPherson. He's the Chief Marketing Officer for a local organization. He's registered Republican from Media, Pennsylvania, who told us he's leaning towards voting for you, but has concerns about what he calls shifts in your policy positions. Rob?
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Vice President Harris. So welcome to Delco.
Thank you.
Here in Delco, we pride ourselves on being authentic.
Yeah.
And much of what you've been saying with regard to issues like law and order and fracking reflect a more centrist view than what people are used to hearing from Kamala Harris, leaving some voters to wonder about the authenticity of your current, more moderate positions. Can you talk a little bit about how your positions have shifted and why?
Sure, and thank you. So first of all, on fracking, I've been very clear. We kind of dispensed with this in 2020. I am not going to ban fracking. I did not as vice president. In fact, as vice president.
Kamala Harris, repetidamente, lo pueden buscar. No lo voy a poner aquí porque no quiero poner el video más largo de lo necesario. Todo el tiempo ha hablado de banear el fracking. Todo el tiempo. Cuando ella dice de que, yo no soporté fracking, no, fue una posición, tú dijiste, cuando tú eras cuando Biden introdujo, la posición del presidente es tal, no la mía.
President, I cast the tie-breaking vote that now has opened up more fracking leases. My value on the issue of what we need to do to invest in a clean energy economy and a clean energy future has not changed. But frankly, I now have...
Entonces, ¿cómo una persona que te habla de energía limpia, que para tener energía limpia hay que banear fracking? Ella te dice, esa es la dualidad de Kamala. Ella te dice, no, pero sí. Entonces no te dice nada. Mi compromiso con energía limpia no han cambiado, que es esencialmente banear fracking por energía limpia. Y la energía limpia tiene mucho que ver con importar energía de otros países, como China, por ejemplo, Rusia. Ella te dice en una misma sentencia, yo quiero energía limpia, pero yo no voy a banear fracking. No hacen esquina. Es una o la otra. No hacen esquina porque el fracking es proporcionalmente contrario a energía limpia. Energía limpia. Porque vamos a preguntarle a los niños en África que están en minas de cobalto, que el cobalto es uno de los elementos principales para crear las baterías para los vehículos electrónicos. Todos. Los BYD, los Tesla, los Kia, todos. Entonces, no hacen esquina, Kamala.
Have the experience and perspective of having been vice president for almost 4 years. I've traveled the country. I know that we can invest in a clean energy economy and still not ban fracking and still work toward what we need to do to create more jobs and create U.S.-based jobs in a way that will be globally competitive. On the issue of law and order, as you mentioned, I think there's just a whole lot of misinformation, to be honest with you. I have personally prosecuted very serious crime. It's how I started my career. I spent most of my career as a prosecutor, not in Washington, D.C. And as my first priority had and remains as a first priority to me, the safety of the American people. So that has not changed. And sadly, I think that there's a bit of misinformation, if not more than a bit. But I'm glad that you raised the subject so that I can address it. But just if you don't mind, just let me just finish. Because I think the
Let me finish. I'm talking. Let me finish. Es que tú hablas mucho, redonda.
The spirit of your question is really important, and I'm glad you raised it. Our country deserves to have a president of the United States who is not afraid of good ideas and
Atacar a Donald Trump nuevamente.
does not stand on pride. If a perspective needs to be informed by different points of view to build consensus and to have a common sense approach, I'm never going to shy away from good ideas. And I'm not going to feel the need to have pride associate with a position that I've taken when the important thing is to build consensus to fix problems. I believe in fixing problems. I love fixing problems. And so I pledge to you to be a president who not only works for all Americans, but works on getting stuff done. And that means compromise. And it doesn't mean compromising your values or your principles, but it does mean working to get stuff done. And I pledge to you I will do that.
Just to be clear, though, what he's referring to, and you point out, too, when you're running for vice president in 2020, you were not talking about banning fracking, but...
No, Anderson, I pledged that I would not ban fracking.
Right, I know. You said you would not ban fracking.
Correct.
You had said in the 2019 town hall, there's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. In 2017, you talked about Medicare.
Mira, CNN haciendo fact check. Bien. Vamos a ver, Kamala Harris, ¿qué tú dices?
For all, you talked about 2019, raised a hand in debate about if border crossings should be decriminalized. Are all of those issues, which those are not your positions now, are all those issues that you're saying through consensus and getting stuff done, you have evolved on?
Well, no, let's take, for example, the issue of Medicare. My point has always...
Ella no ha hablado, él no habló de Medicare. Él habló de fracking y de frontera. Pero obviamente, como la posición de ella ha sido eliminar fracking y obtener fronteras abiertas, ha sido la política de este gobierno, pues ella va a cambiar. Medicare. No estamos hablando de Medicare. Fracking y frontera.
always been that access to healthcare should not just be a privilege of those who can afford it. It should be a right for all people. So that is why I have worked on doing what we have done to, one, allow Medicare to negotiate against the big pharmaceutical companies to bring down the cost of prescription medication. We've achieved that in terms of capping the cost of insulin for seniors at $35 a month, capping the cost of annual prescriptions at $2,000 a year for seniors. But my plan moving forward, based on that very principle that I've always had, is as president to have that cap be for everyone and not just for our seniors. The work that I have done that has been about recognizing the importance of dealing with border security, that has never changed. As I said, I have prosecuted transnational criminal organizations. That I did for years before I ever ran in 2019.
I mean, you did raise your hand saying in a debate when asked if border crossing should be decriminalized, but obviously that is not your position.
I never intended, nor will I ever allow America to have a border that is not secure. I believe we need to deal with illegal immigration. There needs to be consequences, which is why part of my plan that I have outlined, and again, please go to KamlaHarris.com. Sorry to throw a website on you, but why not? And you will see that part of my plan includes what we need to do to actually...
El plan de ella es el mismo de Joe Biden, modificado. Y todos sabemos que una de las primeras medidas llegando a la Casa Blanca de Harris y Joe fue precisamente una de las medidas principales que ayudaba a identificar, porque no se confundan, no es que se esté en contra de la inmigración, es que se sepa quién entra al país. Una de las primeras medidas fue que una de las leyes que tenía Donald Trump, que tú tenías que esperar en México para poder cruzar a los Estados Unidos, la banearon de facto. Y eso permitió que en esa sola instancia, más de 5 a 7 millones de inmigrantes entraran sin saber quiénes son, sin saber dónde están al sol de hoy. Eso es peligroso.
Do more as it relates to putting resources in, including increasing penalties for illegal crossing.
And just finally on fracking, you said you're clear you would not ban it as president.
No, I would not ban it as president.
Right, you're clear on that.
Deben haber un mínimo de 10 a 12 videos Kamala Harris expresamente diciendo que ella va a banear el fracking. Expresamente, pero está en Pensilvania, un estado que es definido por el fracking. Ahora yo voy a mentir, porque yo quiero tus votos.
Do you think it is bad for the environment, though?
I think that we have proven that we can invest in a clean energy economy. We can mitigate greenhouse gas emissions.
A eso te estoy diciendo. Cómo el clean energy está directamente proporcional opuesto al fracking. Entonces, ¿cómo tú puedes banear fracking y cómo tú puedes apoyar el fracking y tener clean energy al mismo tiempo? No tiene sentido.
We can work on and sustaining what we need to do to protect this beautiful earth of ours and not ban fracking.
Time is short, so I want to get some more voters in. Tanisha Spall from Lansdowne, Pennsylvania. She works as an education administration manager for the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections. Registered Democrat who says she's leaning towards supporting you, has yet to make her final decision. Tanisha, welcome.
Thank you, Anderson. Thank you, Madam Vice President, for joining us this evening. I appreciate that you did acknowledge that we are a country that is faced with problems and issues. With the Supreme Court being plagued with issues, would you be in favor of expanding the court to, say, 12, so each justice has only one circuit court other than Chief Justice to assist in making judgments more balanced?
Well,
miren lo interesante. Hasta ahora ninguna pregunta ha tenido que ver con vaina LGTB, con niño transgénero, nada de eso. Es que al estadounidense no le importa nada de eso. Hay una minoría que habla de esos disparates, los George Soros y compañía que están empujando, los Bill Gates que están empujando esa agenda 2030 con la mariconización y la vaina. Pero la mayoría de la gente no te va a hablar de que de derecho de aborto, de que nada de eso.
To your point, there is no question that the American people increasingly are losing confidence in the Supreme Court. And in large part because of the behavior of certain members of that court and because of certain rulings, including the Dobbs decision and taking away a precedent that had been in place for 50 years, protecting a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. So I do believe that there should be some kind of reform of the court, and we can study what that actually looks like. But I do believe. But again, let's just, while you raise the point of the court, understand that, again, in 13 days, the American people will decide who is the next president of the United States. In 13 days, you will decide who is sitting in the Oval Office on January 20th. And on one hand, you have in Donald Trump someone who has increasingly proved himself to be unstable and who, as we have established and the people close to him have established, he is unfit to serve. Somebody who, on January 20th, you can be sure, will spend full time, like we know, and we've seen the image mentally of him sitting in the dining room off of the Oval Office, watching for hours as people violently attack the Capitol. You can be sure, because he has said he would weaponize the Department of Justice to go after his political enemies, that you can look at a Donald Trump in the White House after January 20th, sitting in that Oval Office, plotting his revenge. He has talked about the enemies within. We haven't even raised that subject, Anderson. The enemies within. He's talking about the American people. He's talking about journalists.
Ustedes saben que es otro cat de Kamala Harris, ¿verdad? Eso ha sido ya desmentido. Vuelvo y le repito, este town hall en el 80% es hablar en contra de Donald Trump, no de mis políticas. Cuando Donald Trump es preguntado por Kamala Harris en un town hall, lo que sea, él dice algo, y se concentra en propuestas. En yo voy a hacer, no su campaña completa en hablar en contra del contrincante, porque entonces, ¿qué es lo que tú vas a hacer cuando tú seas presidenta? Lo mucho que hacen, por ejemplo, en República Dominicana, que todavía al sol de hoy hay políticos de Luis Abinader en un segundo mandato hablando de que la pasada gestión, porque no vinieron preparados.
Nonpartisan election officials. He has talked about, as John Kelly has talked about, can he send the military after peaceful protesters? And he's going to sit there unstable, unhinged, plotting his revenge, plotting his retribution, creating an enemies list. I'm going to tell you, my list will be a list of how I address.
Donald Trump fue presidente de los Estados Unidos, para los que no lo saben. Y su mayor oponente, que podía someterla, porque ella tenía unos emails que extrañamente desaparecieron, se llama Hillary Clinton. Adivine qué pasó con Hillary Clinton. No fue sometida, no fue perseguida, no fue presa. Incluso gente perdió el favor de votantes, Donald Trump, por no haber hecho esto, por no haberla sometido. Entonces, eso de que Kamala Harris dice, no, que era una lista, es un cap.
And continue to address the issues that you all are raising this afternoon and evening. It will be a to-do list about how we can impact the American people and lift up the American people and address some of the challenges that we continue to face. So.
Vice President Kamala Harris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thanks for watching. Thanks to all the voters here. Be sure to join CNN on November 5th for Election Night in America right here on CNN. Jake Tapper and Aaron Burnett pick it up right now.
Anderson, thank you. You've been watching CNN's Town Hall with Vice President Kamala Harris and undecided voters less than 2 weeks from the election. A lot of tough questions for the vice president there. It seemed as though the voters were divided into three basic groups. Liberals who had not heard enough from her, progressives worried that she was not progressive enough, and Republicans who are wary of Donald Trump and wanting to hear more from the vice president. She focused a lot more on Donald Trump, I think it's fair to say, than she did on many specifics in terms of what she would do as president. But she did go into some of her plans for small businesses and the like. Of course, with only 13 days to go and Trump and Harris fighting over these last few undecided voters, and in fact, trying to get undecided voters to even vote, we'll see whether or not she achieved what she needed to achieve this evening. Dana Bash, your thoughts?
Well, I'll just tell you what I'm hearing from people who I've been talking to, and that is that if her goal was to close the deal, they're not sure she did that. And, you know, some people have asked, is she being held to a different standard? Maybe. But that's maybe the world that she's living in. And on the question of who she is, people are understanding that a little bit more, but what she will do, the question about her legislative priorities, name one.
Esta es la primera parte. Hay otra parte más extensa de este Town Hall donde se le hacen más preguntas. Esta es la primera parte. Voy a estar reaccionando dependiendo de sus comentarios. Voy a estar reaccionando a la segunda parte, en donde le hacen preguntas, por ejemplo, del groceries a Kamala Harris, y donde evidentemente muchas de estas preguntas ella no está preparada para estas respuestas, para dar esta respuesta. Pero déjeme saber usted, si usted puede, ustedes saben, yo soy respetuoso de eso, elegir un candidato sobre otro simplemente por la manera en que lo ataca. Es Hitler, es malo, es esto. Ok, pero ¿qué vas a hacer tú como presidenta? ¿Cómo no vas a representar? ¿Y por qué todas esas promesas que tú estás haciendo ahora, que pudiste haberla cumplido ahora, no lo hiciste y tienes que esperar a ser presidente para hacerla? Eso no tiene sentido para mí. Pero déjame saber qué tú opinas en comentarios. Hola, mi nombre es John Levy, analista político y comunicador. Muchísimas gracias por llegar al final de este contenido. Recuerda suscribirte, comentar y compartir, y sobre todo activar la campanita de notificaciones para que te llegue cada vez que subimos un video. Leemos todos los comentarios y sobre todo recuerda ampliar estas y otras informaciones en mi página web johnlevy.com, las noticias como son. Buenos días, buenas tardes, buenas noches, donde quiera que esté. Un abrazo grande y hasta pronto.